Hello, Renegade marketers. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. In this episode, executive recruiter Erica Seidel joins one of our monthly huddles for CMOs in transition to unpack what's really going on in the CMO market. She gets into what CEOs are actually hiring for, why some roles are tougher than they first appear, and how marketing leaders can read the context more clearly before stepping into the wrong situation. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. You'll be supporting our quest to be the #1 B2B marketing podcast. All right, let's dive in. Hello, huddlers. If you're here, you're thinking about your next CMO role, quietly preparing for it, or trying to future-proof the one you have. This is our third conversation with Erica Seidel, and there's a reason we keep bringing her back. Erica runs a highly respected boutique recruiting practice called the Connective Good. She is hyper-focused on CMOs like we are at CMO Huddles, especially for B2B SaaS orgs, and they're often PE-backed. I don't want to hear any booing. Boo. Probably from me. Her tagline is that she recruits the make money marketing leaders, not the make it pretty ones. And we'll get into that in a little bit. She works closely with CEOs, boards, and investors, and has a front row seat to how CMO hiring really happens, not how it's described in job specs, but how decisions actually get made. And it's funny, I got to review over the weekend our past two conversations, and she's helped us confront some hard truths. The fact that companies are often looking for an 11 out of 10 requirements. The fact that companies don't want to squint when they hire. The reality of CMO roles often being revenue rescue missions, and the emotional toll of modern CMO careers. Today, we're going to build on that and look ahead to what it will take to win a CMO role in 2026. Not just how to interview better, but how to choose the right situations, tell the right stories, and show up with confidence in a market that is more demanding and more ambiguous than ever. This is meant to be candid, practical, and hopefully a bit of a pep talk. So Erica, welcome back. How are you and where are you this fine day?
I am well. Hi, Drew. I'm at home in Cambridge.
Cambridge, Mass?
Cambridge, Mass.
Ooh,
yes, down the street from Harvard Square.
This is the first time I've ever worn a turtleneck on any CMO Huddles recording because it's chilly here, and I imagine you're feeling the same.
I have a couple layers, there's a few pairs of pants on, and yeah.
But we're ready to rock. So, okay, we spoke early last year. I'm wondering if you're seeing any sense of fundamental change in how companies are evaluating CMOs.
One thing I'm actually happy to see is that when I have asked CEOs in the last few searches I've done, what kind of marketing leader do you want? Brand, demand, product marketing. I do primarily B2B SaaS companies, right? They are more likely now to say, I don't really know. I don't really care. I want an orchestrator. I want a growth partner. I want somebody to up-level the function. The person could come from anywhere, which is a little bit different than what sometimes people say, which is like, oh, it's all about demand. It's all about demand. And I think that people are realizing, maybe it's all the badgering that, the marketing organizations, marketing people have done, is like that the way forward, especially in kind of AI, where AI has joined the buying committee, is like tight cycles of brand and demand. So that's very exciting. I saw this quote from John Miller, like pipeline problems are positioning problems. And I think that we collectively have made, kind of headway in that brand versus demands kind of conversation. I think in another area, maybe going from like AI curious to AI for efficiency to AI for elevation. That's kind of like an evolution. I haven't yet dealt with, we want you to use AI and ditch your whole team.
Right.
I'm sure that could be out there, but I haven't yet come down with that. There was this joke that was floating around like, you're not going to get hired unless you've done something like, 5 custom GPTs that you can show us. So I don't know. I think everybody's still figuring out like how to get at the AI question, the AI fluency and stuff. So
let me stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
I have felt that the brand versus demand thing was a false dichotomy for a long time.
Yes.
Like And so I am sort of the fact that, the last thing I would want to ask a CEO is, do you want to brand it? Because I don't think they ever understood what the distinction was anyway.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Yeah,
Right?
you're right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So hopefully they're just saying, I want somebody who can grow the company. And I get that. What I'm trying to figure out here is, because I increasingly hear from CMOs whose CEO founder clearly doesn't understand there's a process here that you just can't generate sales day one, and that there are things that have to happen. So I'm wondering, when you're talking to the CEOs, do they have any clue how marketing is working? And if not, what does the prospective CMO have to do to educate them on that and then get the job?
It depends. Some CEOs rather have done a stint in marketing, or they have learned from good people. Sometimes it's just a kind of what got you here won't get you there with hiring, like, oh, we've had somebody good and now we want somebody who can kind of like outwit this tough market that we're in. It depends. In terms of what you need to do, you need to show how you have increased revenue and how you've gotten a lot done on a tight budget. So I often get clients asking, well, what did they do? Oh, great. Well, what was the budget that got them there and the team? Kind of just demonstrating that. And I also think just educating as you go. You brought it up yourself, the whole brand versus demand conversation is maybe not that helpful and maybe a little bit oppositional. And I think the strongest CMOs are ones that will kind of, be almost a little bit like, I don't know, like therapists internally, or they just kind of like, they bring people along with them and they're not going to be like, what's your view of your marketing? Oh, my view of marketing is very different. I think the other thing here is just like there's such an interest in experiments. And so talk about the experience that you're running. I interviewed somebody for my podcast, Monica Ho. She's awesome. She's a CMO. So I don't know if she's in this group, but she talked about like how she was trying to like get AI adoption on her team, and she kind of like just gave them a lot of tools, and then that didn't really help. And then she said, okay, I'm just going to start taking away the tools that you're used to using, and you have to use AI. And so like, I just said that's stuck in my head as like a really good kind of like dealing with the organizational change of AI, that kind of use case.
I want to get into AI, but not yet. I'm still
I know.
Again, dealing with this, doing the fundamental thing here. So this is a small, but your last job, let's say you were in it for 6 to 12 months and the company did not grow. But in your earlier job, you did have it. And sometimes, let's face it, there are companies where the headwinds are so strong. I mean, right now, generally, every SaaS company is facing a crisis. Right. So the fact that you didn't grow the company may not be because you were a bad marketer. It may be that you weren't able to persuade the CEO and the product people that we need to change what we're doing. Right. It's a go-to-market problem and not a marketing problem. But so in those cases, which is often more than I like to see, they weren't able to grow the business. Do they go back to the one use case that they did before where they do have a growth story? I mean, how do you handle that specific one?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, certainly good to share the relevant growth stories. Certainly good to put it into context. Like maybe the goal was just a turnaround. Maybe it was like a declining business and the goal was to get it to, to break even. Maybe it was, like a kind of like a roll up of multiple businesses. And the goal was just to bring together and unite and find these efficiencies across businesses and do, cross-sell, upsell, or, what have you. And sometimes companies don't grow. And it's like, okay, well, this is why. And then not point fingers so much, but to say like, oh, we had a product problem. We had a churn problem and we decided to focus more on this other area of the business versus the leaky bucket. Put it into some strategic context that could be helpful. And the strategic context can also be, the overall market I just got off the phone with somebody. It's just like, oh, the overall market is a disaster for what we're doing and we're growing, but it's only 10%. Well, that's pretty good compared to
in a down
declining
market. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, this is an interesting moment because, when the rising ships, when everybody's growing, life is easy and marketing gets credit or doesn't, but it's fine. But right now, it's a very tough market, particularly for SaaS. And there is a very good chance that you're in a role, if you have a role, that there is a churn problem and that there may be a product pricing problem and there may be a product market fit problem. I think the thing that I want to just sort of emphasize at the moment is stop everything and help fix that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your marketing is, the story that you're going to be able to tell, if you don't do that, is going to be harder to tell, right? Because you won't be able to have a growth story. So yeah, we stopped everything to fix the product, or we stopped everything to stop churn. And this is how we help do that.
Right. Or I gave my budget to customer success so they could, I don't know, hire a customer marketer person on their team and get ahead of, some of the churn issues, for instance. Yeah.
So every single job that you have or you're in right now, you have to be conscious of the story that you plan to tell to your next prospective employer. And it's pretty simple in that way, right? And if you don't have a story because you weren't able to move get through the product issues or the sales issues or whatever, it won't save you. It won't get you your next job necessarily. So, all right. So moving on from that, we'll still get to AI, but not yet. What are, in your mind, I guess it's non-negotiables you're seeing in CMOs who actually get hired today and that will still matter as we move forward into 2026? Must-haves.
I think humility is one kind of soft skill. I was talking to somebody the other day who said, wow, I spent decades building up my knowledge base. It's very hard won, and it's very hard, like, emotionally to embrace being a beginner again, but that's what I'm learning to do. And that just stuck with me. Like,
right.
Oh, yeah. So there is that. Like you were just talking about, like taking that business first, marketing second kind of view can be helpful in sharing that. And maybe you're in a business that wasn't growing that much. And you could say, like, what I would have done or what I advocated for and what I learned, through that process is, XYZ. And again, that kind of like experimentation mindset, having a reason to be interviewing with the company that you are meeting with. I have started hearing from candidates that some recruiters are reaching out and they feel like they're just filling a slate and that they're like, this doesn't make sense. This role is not right for me. Like you said before, companies, especially now, like they're not going to squint to hire somebody. So like if it's a mismatch, maybe the recruiter doesn't like totally understand your background, like try to get out of it early so you're not wasting cycles on something that is unlikely to bear fruit.
Yeah, and we have something called the Huddle Buddies playbook. One of the last steps in that is defining if you look at all the things in your last two jobs that were, the category and the sales structure and the size and the backing of, is it PE or VC or public or private or whatever, you make that list and create a grid of 25 folks. Those are going to be your high ICPs.
Yeah.
Right. And then everything else is going to be a maybe. And it really helps to, as you said, have a reason so that you don't. And it's also frustrating if you go for a job that you just aren't going to get. And you know that from the beginning.
It's great to have your list of like target types of companies or target people. For some people, they target like CMOs. I always recommend to people like have your kind of networking roadmap and then share that with people. When they say, how can I help you? You just show them your roadmap. And maybe it's like, I don't know, SaaS companies in the fintech space or SaaS companies in, I don't know, Charlotte, North Carolina, or, whatever, however you're structuring it. And then they will start marking it up like, oh, actually, I know somebody here. Or, oh, if you're talking to this company, you should talk to this other one. They just got funded, So that can like kind of help people help you.
Yeah, I think that's a whole special art form these days. I mean, not only I noticed that you were connected with the XYZ. Here's a note. Would you mind sharing this note with this person? I mean, you can really push it forward to make it easy for people to do that share for you. So humility and this beginner's mindset, I think there's like a Japanese term for that beginner's mindset. That's great. Business first, marketing second, and someone who's experimenting and obviously embracing AI. So let's talk about that in terms of your right now. Are you seeing expectations from CEOs change in terms of what they think a CMO should understand and be able to do with AI? And what are the sort of implications or tests or things that you're seeing CMOs face?
It's not as clear usually. It's more like, oh, we want to hear about AI. We want you to have a perspective on AI. We want you to be kind of testing it out. We want you to be ideally having some efficiencies with it. Again, I haven't had anybody say, we want somebody who's ditched their whole team. I mean, if you do have those examples of like, oh, well, I just talked to somebody the other day. Well, we did this big, I don't know, brand relaunch, and we used to have like videographers, and now we're able to do these very quick, videos for it. And then we, slurped out the content and made this sales enablement material that was very personalized, and it all took an hour and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good story. It's a totally, credible story. So I think it's a plus. But what I see is companies, they're asking for efficiency overall. And if AI is part of that, that's great. But if you're just doing crap with AI to just buying tools, like you can spend a lot of money on these AI tools, if you're just doing that and you're not, kind of focusing on the priorities that the CEO and the kind of, investors, if they're there, if you're not delivering on that, that's going to come out sideways a little bit.
Yes.
And this might be different if it's like a natively AI company,
right?
That is really looking for, a different kind of skill set. I did a podcast with Kati Srinivasan, who she just joined, I think it was Freshworks. Yes, if you look at, my podcast, I did something with like AI native CMO or something. So that's something else to look at.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing there is no such thing as a non-AI proficient CMO getting a job. I think there's a certain level of expectation that you understand the tools, that you do have at least an approach, that you have experimented, and more than that, piloted with some real benchmarks where we're saying we're going to change our workflow, and it used to have 50 manual steps and now it has 3, right? Yeah. And being able to tell those stories, I think we're beyond, we used it to create some copy. I do think that we're getting to this place where lots and lots of CMOs are creating tools, whether it's a complete brand set or a complete GPT for sales, or, all sorts of things that are just not that hard to do. And so, that's happening. Okay. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about mindset, and we've also talked about this not squinting, as you call it, which I think is a funny expression. In any of your placements in the last 12 months, how many of them were perfect square peg, square hole in terms of experience? Like their last job was just like this one, or they took it from 50 to 100. Was it? Or were there some flexibility in some of those? And if so, what were the standout characteristics of those who managed to secure jobs that didn't look exactly like their last one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did place somebody where from the get-go, the company was like, we're all about the partner motion. We want somebody who has built marketing through a partner motion, blah, 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 blah. I found this gal, and it was a VP role. And I found her, and she was a CRO at a company. She had been a CMO. She was like recently a CRO. And I was like, I don't know, this might be a little junior for her, but like she had worked in relevant businesses. Let me just reach out. And I'm talking with her. I'm like, God, this gal is fabulous. Like great revenue growth stories, and just had a lot of credibility and everything. And I said, well, tell me about the partner thing. Well, that's a bit of a minor thing. I mean, she was honest. Like it hasn't been as big of a thing. And so I just put her forward, and I was like, okay, here's the deal. I really like this gal. Like I hate to say I work on gut, but I have been doing this for a long time. And, just when people stick out, they stick out. And I'd been working on the search for a little bit of time. So I kind of knew, like culturally, I felt like it would be a really great fit. And I put it forward, and I was like, okay, here are the things where she doesn't quite line up. And the CEO, like 2 minutes later, it was like a Sunday, right? Oh, I'll meet her. Right. And then boom, boom, boom. And now she's in the role. And then they upgraded the title from VP to CMO. It's interesting. She didn't even ask.
There you go.
They just came back to her. I mean, she was really strong. And, so they like kind of, so that's another like separate thing. Like sometimes, so go ahead.
This is on the strength of you and your reputation and your relationship with it that you can do it. And this is a thing I was talking to a CMOs on this call, I think, earlier today, and talked about, there are the rare cases where a recruiter will be able to place you in a job that doesn't have the 10 by 10 match, right? Or the 6 by 6 match. But it's based on your insight into that individual and being able to put forth them as a great candidate who might have this, doesn't check this box, but is a great candidate and a great cultural fit, and you're going to like them, and just trust me.
I mean, I talked about 11 out of 10 requirements. I don't think I've ever play somebody where it's been like absolute, there's always question marks, right? There's always like a lot of things that are strong and there's always some question marks. And it's just about what companies value at the margins and what trade-offs they are willing to make. It ends up being a vibe for a lot of CEOs. Like I know like everybody talks about being data driven, but like the vibe matters a lot. And also you often set up kind of like a criteria framework or a scorecard kind of thing at the beginning of a search. And then you start going through it and you realize, oh, actually, maybe this doesn't matter as much as this. Like maybe just being experimental really, matters more. Or, oh, this thing, we just bought a company. And that fills in this product gap. So blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle that's changed. We just hired a person and they're strong in demand. So maybe we pivot more towards somebody who's done like, kind of more the positioning stuff. I always tell people like, it's kind of like getting married. I hope my husband doesn't hear me, but like, you marry somebody, you think they're a 10 out of 10, they become an 8 out of 10 over time. And so just realize that it's going to be an 8. Like if you have the 8 out of 10, like that's probably good. The challenge, I guess, if you're a CMO candidate is like you could have companies where they have multiple candidates that are like 8 out of 10. And it's just like, what are the 8 things that they're really going to value?
Yeah. So it still comes down to gut. One of the things that this is a two-way process, right? And a CMO that's interviewing for a job wants to maximize their chance of success. So there's a discovery process that they go through, obviously independently. And then when they finally meet the CEO, and this may apply to you and whether or not you'll even do a search but there are CEOs and there are CEOs, and some are really great leaders. And I was talking to one last week who's like, the CEO and everybody else on the executive team are all players, not coaches. Like they are in the weeds. They are doing, and the company's $75 million. They should have been beyond this. So what in your mind, how are there behaviors of a CEO that are sort of come out as red flags that CMOs can screen for or that you screen for?
When I'm talking to somebody about doing a search, I usually try to challenge them on something or change their mind on something. Oh, you think you need somebody who's a career product marketer for I don't know, because I'll recruit VPs of product marketing too.
Right.
You think you need somebody who's a career product marketer, but what about if you had a CMO at a smaller company who now wants to like dive into product marketing at a bigger company? How would that feel to you? Or here's the benefit of that because they could kind of, I don't know, see around corners a little bit better. That's a softball one. But there's other things where I'll like challenge, like, oh, how would you really? Why is that really important? And I'll see how they react to that. Right. And if they get really defensive, that's a bit of a tell for me. I think also the willing to do trade-offs. Like I have this slide and it's all about like trade-offs. Like if you think you want the person who stays for a long time and doesn't have short tenures, well, beware, because sometimes the person that has been in their company for 6 years is going to misstep the next time they move. It happens more, like you just experientially, like you'll see it happening, because you're used to like the weather being warm and sunny, in one place, and then you're not. I don't know, maybe not attuned to cultural stuff, and so that's a trade-off that like I try to talk with people about. Like, okay, you really want the really quantitative analytical person. Well, that person might not be the best in front of a room. Maybe they won't be the best evangelist for the company. Okay. And if they absorb that, I think that's great. From a candidate standpoint, the thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, this is fascinating. The recruiting process matters just as much to some candidates as the job does. So I had a situation where I called somebody and she was like, oh, yeah, I'm only talking with you because I know you. And but I've had other recruiters call me and they don't really understand what this is. And I want a whole good recruiting process or something. And I was like, that's interesting. Would you say no to buying a house because the realtor for the selling agent was a dork? And she was like, well, I might actually. And I was like, oh, fascinating. And I think what it is that candidates want kind of like a fast speed of trust. Like they don't, obviously clients or, CEOs are trying to be very cautious when they hire. But like, how do you be like thorough with hiring, but also like get to that moment of trusting somebody and feeling like this is a peer-to-peer conversation? Some CEOs get too into like oh, let me just grill you forevermore. But the ones that candidates tend to like more is when they walk in and there's a lot of, kind of trust for them, and where the recruiting process is really strong. So that's been interesting to me, maybe just because there's so much uncertainty in the world, and, we can look at a recruiting process and, I don't know, evaluate it.
So what's a strong recruiting process? What's a good one? How do we even know what that is? What is that right now?
I'd love to hear from this group, maybe in the chat, like, how do you like to be contacted for roles? How personalized? Like, I don't know. I'm very open to it. I think a strong one is where people don't feel like their time is being wasted, where it's transparent. Sometimes you can't be super transparent because sometimes it's like, okay, well, they're still thinking, they're still meeting other people. And I don't know. It's always hard. I've started doing videos with CEOs to kind of like have a teaser about the opportunity, like a 10-minute interview with me. And they're just like what you and me are doing here, Drew, like just a quick, it's more like 10 minutes, but like, like what's the opportunity? What's the market like? What are the customers like? What's the culture like? Those have gone over well. I'm no recruiting process is perfect. What's funny is you can have the same process across everybody. Some candidates love it. Like, oh, I love taking behavioral assessments. And other people are like, no, I will not do a behavioral assessment. Like, I'm out. Right. And so it depends.
And I know that because you do a lot of PE firms, there are a lot of PE firms these days that are doing behavioral assessments. That's just the price of entry. So, and I also know CMOs who've prepared, like taken, like you did for the SATs, prep courses for them. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. This show is brought to you by CMO Huddles, the only marketing community dedicated to B2B greatness and that donates 1% of revenue to the Global Penguin Society. Why? Well, it turns out that B2B CMOs and penguins have a lot in common. Both are highly curious and remarkable problem solvers. Both prevail in harsh environments by working together with peers, and both are remarkably mediagenic. And just as a group of penguins is called a huddle, our community of over 300 B2B marketing leaders huddle together to gain confidence, colleagues, and coverage. If you're a B2B CMO, why not dive into CMO Huddles by registering for our free starter program on cmohuddles.com. Hope to see you in a huddle soon. I find more and more this. So a CMO will call me and say, hey, I've got 3 offers. And they're very different typed companies because they seem to breed. You go into a blank and then suddenly you have 3 offers. And how to evaluate which one. And I make it really simple and just say, it's the CEO, stupid. If this is a CEO that you trust, that you can work with, that you think will, and your expectations are aligned, life will be as good as it can be in a CMO role. And if not, it will be terrible. Am I oversimplifying that? Or in your experience, are there other factors that sort of accrue to a CMO's success, even if the CEO relationship is just modest?
I think that's decent advice, Drew. That said, sometimes
you can tell me I'm stupid. It's okay.
No,
I can handle it. I can handle it.
I think that's true probably more often than it's not. I was just thinking sometimes CEOs get replaced. So you hire, you join a company for a CEO but that could happen anytime.
And
right?
It does. So, and by the way, when that happens, the new CEO comes in and gets their own CMO. So you are screwed at that moment. So you do want to know where this... So you are. And I've seen it literally last week. It happened. So new CEO comes in, boom, you're gone. Even though the growth story was there, everything was there, the sales relationship was there, people were shocked, but nope, new people. Yeah. So it happens, and it happens more than you would want. So I guess and there's no protection against that other than, I guess, talking to the board and saying, so what do you think of the CEO?
Yeah, right, exactly. And do they have a heritage of turning over CEOs? And has that CEO done the scale up the company's looking to do before? Are they a first-time CEO, a founder? Have they been there for 5 years? Maybe they're getting tired. Are they really excited? Have they, whatever. I would say it's also like, look at the culture. There's that. And then it's kind of incumbent on both sides to not just feel a vibe, even though we talk about so much like gut, but like, to actually ask good questions about culture. Like, sometimes I ask people, like, what is a cultural pet peeve you have? What are values you grew up with that are really important and, imbue your work now? Like, what do you, or ask a CEO, like, what are things you value? Again, it gets trade-offs. What do you think, what are the things you value more than others? Like, okay, we value perfectionism so much that we are willing for things to be, or, we value getting things right. And so we're willing to have things be a little slower. I don't know. That's a cultural aspect of pace that I think is really important.
Is there anybody saying slower?
I mean, again, there's the get it right, get it done.
Right.
And some people are more like, hey, we want to really make sure we are, shipshape. And I mean, that's a little more unusual, but
right.
Sure.
So there's this interesting moment where, as a CMO is getting to know this company, and obviously you can do a tremendous amount of research and you can create sort of GPTs that do their assessments and go out and scrape all their analyst reports, and you can find a lot of interesting facts, and you should do all of those things. And as you get more confident because you're finding out all this information, you may feel like, oh yeah, we can solve this problem. Right. And then you may actually say, yes, I think we can solve this particular set of problems that you've described. Where's the balance between sounding confident without over-promising?
Yeah.
Because you don't really know until you get there. Oh, our sales guys are really sucky, or our product just doesn't compare, or our customer service is really under-delivering.
Yeah. I mean, I think companies appreciate it when people don't just look backwards to what they have done, but look forwards to what they would do. They love it if somebody's going to do a little bit of kind of prep work. And maybe this is not interview 1, maybe this is like interview 3. Like, okay, well, I've been thinking about what you said, and here are the themes that came up, and here are like the top 3 things I would do in the first, I don't know, few months or whatever. And if you share your assumptions, that makes it even better. If you have a conversation about what would make this happen fast versus slowly, because that's, I think, where CMO and CEO partnerships can fail. It's when there's misalignment between what happens in the short term and the long term. Like, expectations can be like, oh, wow, you're going to, I don't know, flick some things, and then we're going to get the 2,000 leads next month. And that's like way bigger than, we're getting 2 a lead, whatever, so managing that process and saying, this is faster when XYZ happens. This is going to be slower when, ABC happens, that can be better. And the other thing is, sometimes people often, candidates are asked to do presentations and stuff, and people can grumble and, oh, it feels like free work. And, however, it could be a good way of really feeling like, is there that fit there? And companies are very understanding that you're going to get half of that wrong.
Right. I like to sort of, I think one CMO framed it as, here are my 3 to 5 working hypotheses going into this. These are the things, like you talked about, assumptions. I like this notion of hypothesis because that's a thing that you can test, right? These are the working hypotheses. This is where where the gaps are that I think we could fill. Here's how I can sort of find out whether to verify these hypotheses, and we can do it in the first 3 months. The short-term, long-term thing is so problematic. And I wonder, particularly in PE firms where there's a, depending on where they are in the sales cycle of the firm, it's like everything is short-term. Have you met some candidates that are really good at sort of helping a CEO understand that, hey, our product perception problem goes, you can see it on G2 and Trust Radius, you can see it with the analysts. We're not going to fix that in 3 months. And if we don't fix that, long-term, our sales are going to continue. We're going to lose more deals. Our churn rate is going to be higher. So I know you want more leads now, but we got to fix this first. Have you met some CMOs that have made that argument successfully and actually bought the time they need to solve the real problem?
Oh, good question. A lot of them are, I mean, maybe some exist on this call, but some of them are like the strong ones will say, yeah, you deliver on the short term while doing the long-term stuff. You might not talk about some of the long-term stuff in a board meeting or what have you, or you might not showcase how much time you're spending on each, but you have to have the I don't know, I have to say empathy for the fact that like, this is a company that might be planning to sell. Like there might be things like, especially before you join, that you don't know that like, oh, the company's in conversations to get bought or to roll up with 3 other companies or, what have you. And so there might be a good reason why kind of getting those oars in the water fast is, makes sense. And that's also like if you're talking ahead of time and that's, I think you can have those conversations. Like, are you aware that blah, blah, blah. But I also think that's a kind of an adversarial way to put it. Like that also like gives the CEO a problem, So I would, what you said, Drew, I would extend that, be like, so here are the options. We could focus here, and this is the results we're going to have. We can focus, on longer term stuff, and that's going to take a little bit of, more time. We could put some resources over here. We can try to like put lipstick on a pig, and and that could look like this.
So we have some questions that I want to just make sure we get to quickly. Red flags in terms of you see on both sides, things that make you tell a CMO, don't take this role, or tell a CEO, this candidate isn't the one. I mean, obviously you wouldn't present a candidate if there isn't the one, but I imagine at some point in time, there has been a candidate or two where you go, yeah, I think we should move on. This isn't the right fit for you.
Yeah, well, I think we talked a little bit about the red flag on the CEO side. The like, oh, I think I know it all, and I'm not going to be persuadable in a process, or I have like unrealistic expectations. On a candidate side, sometimes there's just odd behavior that can be a little red flaggy. The other thing is like if a candidate takes a long time to get back to you or to draw out the process, you wonder, do they care as much? And is their speed going to match the speed of the company? Especially now when there's candidates that are like, yeah, I'm excited about this. And I've thought about this already. And here's some work samples. And here's how I would tackle the role. And then, and then you might have somebody else. And it's okay if like, I always say like, if there's a chance you're going to take the job, like have the conversation. Like I am totally fine talking to somebody and having a couple conversations and then being like, oh, it's not the right time. It's not like it's not the right time. Like that's fine. But yeah, try to match the pace and try to I don't know, be a real person, like be authentic. I think maybe another red flag, which could be relevant here, is I think there's a lot of trauma in the CMO community. So I think that sometimes people can be a little raw emotionally, and that can work for you or against you. Like I had somebody like almost in tears one day, like talking about her team and how she had built this wonderful team and then she'd left the team. I mean, it was actually quite lovely. And then I've also seen people, maybe not CMO level, but more VP level, that'll be like noticeably nervous in an interview. And so that, especially in a PE batch situation where you're going to have people being like, where are the numbers and let's defend your budget, like that wouldn't, that it's a question mark.
Yeah. You have to exude confidence because you're going to need that. I mean, it really is something. It's a job where as a leader, if you can't be confident, nobody's going to have confidence in your marketing. So it does feel like that is if you're nervous, that's going to be hard. So,
but I would say it's authenticity. Like yes. I also don't want the overconfidence. Authenticity being like, oh, I'm still working on this. I'm struggling on this. I think I love that.
So do you go back to the CMOs that you've placed? And if so, are you getting some reality checks from them in terms of the job they thought they were getting and what they actually got?
Yeah, I do stay in touch with people and, text them like, how's it going? I mean, some more than, sometimes I make friends with people more than others, or like location, can matter. People are often doing better than they think they're doing because I also stay in touch with, CEOs, investors,
right.
Like in some PE shops, they have marketing operating partners. So people who are like a bridge almost between, the portfolio company CMOs and the PE shop. These people can be great. Anyway, and I'll be like, oh, hey, how's so-and-so doing? Or and they're like, oh, they're doing great. Oh, wow, they're fabulous. And this is great. I mean, it's not everybody, but like, and then, when I'm next in touch with the candidate, with the person I placed, I'll be like, hey, I heard you're doing really well. Great. And they're like, oh, really? and so I feel like, I don't know. I guess I'm honored to be able to do that for people. But maybe just expectations are so high that people, they don't want to like just, I don't know, take time to be, a cheerleader.
Right.
But yeah, can it be? Yeah. Sometimes people are like, whoa, this is a bit of a cluster, like, wow, I didn't realize that this change was about to happen, or, and often it's like, oh, I didn't realize sales leader was on their way out, or, what have you. And I mean, I'm pretty strong placement rate. I did like an analysis on like how long people stay in their roles. I had a guy stay for 6 years, a woman stay for 5 years. I've had multiple people stay for 3 years. I've only had to do a replacement search once, twice, in 15
That's a good
years.
record.
So like, yeah. I mean, and again, this is because like there's a lot of work that goes into it. So,
Right.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay. So I know a number of CMOs in the transition team, our program where we meet a couple times a month and, get folks like you to come back, as well as people who've landed jobs to come back. And a few start to get really self-conscious about the fact that they've been out of work for 3 months or 6 months. And it's hard.
Yep.
And yet there is this moment where, because they're out of work, they could start right away.
Yeah.
And this notion of sort of readiness and availability. In your mind, does that play at all in any of the searches where someone who's been out of work for a while, that's an advantage to the employer and the employer actually sees it? Yeah, they could start tomorrow, or they could start as a fractional.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, like, right. So sometimes speed works in your favor because you don't have to go through a whole process of like giving notice and transitioning your work or staying for a bonus, like especially this time of year, people are like, I got a bonus at the end of March. And so I can start something new, but it's going to be May or, whatever. I think companies, there's less stigma than there used to be about people being kind of actively looking. Companies are just like, hey, we're busy, we want to find the right fit, and if this person works, like all the better. A lot of people will say like, oh, hey, I've been taking some time off, I've been working constantly for like 25 years or whatever, and I was able to, I don't know, travel to Australia or whatever, right? And or people have kids, or I mean, life happens, and I think we understand that life happens. So I think it can be helpful, especially like now in the PE backed settings that I'm dealing with. Sometimes, like, I just wrote a bunch of candidates last week and they were like, this sounds great, Erica, but my company is going to exit in the next couple of years and we're doing fine, we're doing well. And so the timing is just not good. And so like, especially like if you've had an exit and you're just taking some time and maybe you had a financially juicy exit, that people would understand. I think the other plus is that you can be kind of taking your time to, lean in on all the new AI, kind of learning that people who are actively in seat might not have time for.
No, and it's true. And I've seen that in real time. I love that the British have an expression, garden leave. I love that expression. And the Brits will put it on their LinkedIn profile, garden leave, this year. And there's this slight difference in that they had a 1-year non-compete. And so that was part of it. So, all right. Well, we promised a pep talk. We haven't necessarily given one yet. Let's try to shape some of the things that we've talked about into a sense of optimism, or things that CMOs can do to improve their chances to get a job in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, companies, they want to know you. They want the authenticity and they want the numbers. You only need one role. And I've known a bunch of people who are out for a while and then they land really meaty, interesting jobs and they look back and it was a blip. When they're in it, it's hard. I have a friend, I might have shared this in the last one, Drew, but like I have this friend, Cesar Barea. He's great. He's a marketing analytics consultant par excellence. Anyway, he's like, you never as good as you feel when things are great, and you're never as bad as you feel when things are not going great. And I think about that a lot just because executive search like is the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. Like you're always dealing with that. So that's something that I think people can think of. And I also think if you're in between roles, you have the opportunity to prepare and get to know different companies. And it's kind of cool looking back, like, wow, I met all these companies. I learned about all these different areas of business and, the economy that I wouldn't have learned. And I made new friends and might not see it now, but maybe in a year, it's like, oh, wow, this person I met, for this thing and it didn't go anywhere, but now they're calling me up to be an advisor for blah, blah, blah. Or they're introducing me to my next, I don't know, CEO or my next director of demand or what have you.
You only need to find one. That's, I think that's the sort of key takeaway here. And we talked a little bit about how to try to focus your outbound search and manage your inbound search. So the ones that you are competing for are ones that you have at least a decent probability of closing. I wanted to sort of ask, first of all, folks have asked, where can people find you and how should they engage with you ideally?
Oh, right. LinkedIn is it. I also have a newsletter that I, occasionally put out, and I'm just plunking my email in the chat right now.
Thank you.
Oh, that just went to Nicole. Sorry, Nicole. It's so funny. I do these and I see people that I've talked with before, and I'm like, okay, cool. And so yeah, you can connect there. I also have my podcast, which is on hiatus right now, but should start again in the summer.
The joys of being a solopreneur.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's a relevant point here because essentially everyone else who is between opportunities or in transition is a solopreneur tour. And it's interesting. And every day you're making choices on the time and how you spend it. We are very grateful that you chose to spend it with us today. We hope you got some value out of this. If you're new to CMO Huddles and the transition team, we are having conversations like this every 2 weeks, and we are really dedicated overall at Huddles, we like to say, help huddlers win. Well, when it comes to the transition team, it's not just landing a job, it's making the process a little bit more palatable. It's a painful process. And, our thought is not a new thought, which is if you're doing this alone, you've created a little very painful island. And so find a community, if it's not ours, somewhere else where you can come together with people and share. Yes, you can query the bots and say, how'd I do? But having another person prep with, have another person troubleshoot with is really going to improve the odds. And so the last thought I want to give you all is you are professionals, kind of like professional athletes, although you're marketers. Professional athletes all the time are constantly looking at their swing or their approach or their tiniest little thing. And so we really want to encourage you all to find a buddy. We call them huddle buddies to help you refine that little thing that may keep you from getting your next opportunity, the one that you really want. So thank you, Erica, so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Drew.
If you're a B2B CMO and you want to hear more conversations like this one, find out if you qualify to join our community of sharing, caring, and daring CMOs at cmohuddles.com. Renegade Marketers Unite is written and directed by Drew Neiser. Hey, that's me. This show is produced by Melissa Caffrey, Laura Parkin, and Ishar Cuevas. The music is by the amazing Burns Twins, and the intro voiceover is Linda Cornelius. To find the transcripts of all episodes, suggest future guests, and learn more about CMO Huddles or my CMO coaching service, please visit renegademarketing.com. I'm your host, Drew Neiser. Until next time, keep those Renegade marketing caps on and strong.